To understand how this morning turned deadly, you have to go back not weeks, but years. On paper, Tommy Gilbert Jr. had everything. A father who was a Wall Street fixture, a Princeton education that ran in the family, a Manhattan apartment, a luxury lifestyle bankrolled by his father.
He went to the best schools. He had the best education.
To prepare for this uniquely challenging case, our research went back to the beginning of Tommy's story, starting with the man who wrote the book on him.
Has an IQ of 140, by the way. You know, his teachers would talk about his leadership qualities.
True crime author John Glatt spent years investigating the Gilbert case for his book, Golden Boy, A Murder Among the Manhattan Elite.
I think he had everything, basically. He had a loving family. His father was undoubtedly pushy and wanted him to succeed and would push him in sports and everything to excel.
But by age 30, Tommy Jr. couldn't hold down a job, so his father paid for his Manhattan apartment, his cars, his memberships to elite country clubs, and a generous weekly allowance, one that over time, his parents began to cut. He's 30 years old. He's getting thousands of dollars a month from his parents.
Well, I think it was brought up that in 2 years, his parents gave him basically $100,000, you know, and that wasn't including his rent or anything, club memberships or things like that.
Do you think that he was infuriated by the stepping down of his allowance?
I'm sure he was, yeah. And I think his parents were really scared about that, you know?
On the morning of January 4th, 2015, Thomas Gilbert Sr. notified his son of the latest cut, from $500 a week down to $300.
Wow.
At around 2:30 that afternoon,
$500 a week.
Tommy Jr. left his Chelsea apartment and headed uptown to Beekman Place.
He got the subway, you know, and he's got his hoodie on and everything. He's got a backpack, and, you know, he's going to his parents with a gun.
Shows up, walks past the doorman without a word, goes to the 8th floor. Pick up the story for me there.
He rings the doorbell, his mother opens, and she's very happy because they hadn't really been in communication for like 3 or 4 months. You know, Tommy had cut them off. Now he suddenly turned up. I think Shelley was very happy.
That there might be some rapprochement.
Exactly. You know, maybe things are going to be improved. And Tommy walked in and said, look, can you, I need to be alone, talk to my father about business. Could you go out and get me a sandwich and a Coca-Cola? So Shelley, you know, complied, left the house, went down, you know, to the grounds and started walking around.
Shelley Gilbert headed for the corner deli, but then she had a bad feeling.
She suddenly had second thoughts and said, I hope things are okay. He's not going to get, you know, violent or something like that. So she kind of turned heel and actually went back a few minutes later. Comes up to the 8th floor. Then she's very nervous. She walks around the corridor, I think, for a minute or so. Then she lets herself in, and the place is completely empty. And she walks into the bedroom, and there she finds, you know, her husband, you know, she's been shot in the head. And she realizes exactly what's happened.
She knows instantly it's Tommy.
Yeah. She calls 911.
Raphael, how are you?
Tommy Gilbert Jr. had fled the scene. Lead Detective Joseph Sirigliano of the NYPD was wrapping up his shift when the call came through.
I'm in the squad. It's towards the end of tour. I'm getting ready to leave. It's my son's 14th birthday, and we're going home. You know, I'm gonna go home. We're gonna have cake. All of a sudden, it comes over the radio, 10-10, male shot. Once they said it was confirmed, that was pretty much it. I knew I was gonna be there for the next 4 days, and the investigation started. And I went to 20 Beekman Place, where the incident occurred. When we walked in the door, there was a lady standing at the table who I learned to be Shelley Gilbert. And she was just sitting at the table. She was upset, but she wasn't hysterical. She was very calm. She was very upset, but she was very matter of fact. And she said, my husband's dead. And she said, my son shot my husband. This is exactly what she says. There was no hesitation. We went into the bedroom, and that's where we observed the male. Basically what happened was he was shot while he was sitting in a chair. He had a TV next to him. The NFL game was on. blood splatter on the ceiling and on the back of the wall.
And then, in the middle of the crime scene, the phone rang. It's Tommy.
He makes a phone call to his mother while we're all sitting at the table. And she very kindly picks up the phone and she says, "Hey, Tommy, what happened?" And she said, "Okay." And we're asking her, "Where is he?" "Oh, you're home? Okay. Okay, Tommy." And then she hung up the phone.
Tommy Gilbert Jr. was in his apartment. Sirigliano and his team raced downtown. Just blocks from the murder scene, Anna Rothschild was walking out of a movie and turned her phone back on.
I had like 25 text messages, and I was like, what? Wow, what's going on? It was all over the news at this point because he was on the run because he'd shot his dad and they were after looking for him. So he was actively out there with a gun somewhere. So all my friends were like, oh my God, he's, he killed his dad. I was honestly really scared at that point because he knew where I lived.
Why was Anna Rothschild so afraid? Because not long before the murder, she'd broken his heart. Someone warned her this day might come.
He said, we are gonna find you cut up into little pieces one morning.
The woman who dated the golden boy and the red flags she missed. To get inside the mind of this elusive killer, I wanted to hear from the people who knew Tommy Gilbert Jr. intimately. To the world, Anna Rothschild lived a life of glamour as a publicist to the stars.
I have a very big social life. I go out a lot and with a lot of celebrities, a lot of A-list events.
But things would get complicated for Anna when she crossed paths with Tommy Gilbert Jr. at a Princeton alum's birthday party in December of 2013.
I actually met Tommy at a friend of mine's birthday dinner. He happened to be sitting next to me and kept chatting with me and asked me for my number kind of aggressively and started calling and texting me the next morning. He asked me out on a date and I thought, why not? He's a good-looking guy.
Nearly 2 decades older than Tommy, Anna Rothschild wasn't looking for anything serious with this young man, but she was up for some fun.
I mean, he was so good looking, he should have been modeling for Ralph Lauren or Abercrombie and Fitch or something. So, I mean, it seemed like he had the entire world at his feet.
But almost immediately, Anna noticed Tommy's quirks. Looking back, she says she should have taken them more seriously.
And then as we started hanging out, I obviously noticed, since we were alone, that he didn't talk a lot. But I thought, okay, he's just a more introverted personality. It didn't worry me at that point. What should have worried me in hindsight was the fact that his phone never rang, ever. It never, ever rang.
A good-looking 30-year-old from a prominent New York
Does
family.
it sound lower now?
And no one was
Very
calling.
quiet. The mic
Turns
or
out by
you
the
two?
time Anna met him, Tommy Gilbert Jr. had already burned most of his bridges. Author John Black documented Tommy Gilbert Jr.'s growing history of violence, including an assault on a friend. When he killed his father, he was still under investigation for the arson of the friend's mansion.
There's a 17th century historic house in Sagaponack, and I think at 2 or 3 in the morning, he set fire to the house and then went to a graveyard next door, sat by the graves and watched it burn to the ground. And that's really when things changed, and everybody knew he'd done it.
Right. Did he go to jail for that?
No.
One of Anna's friends knew enough to be
Okay,
frightened
the
for her.
YouTube video sounds lower
I
though.
had a friend that was very concerned about me
No,
hanging
no,
out
no.
with him. For some reason, he saw things that several of us didn't see, including myself. He said, we are gonna find you cut up into little pieces one morning. And I
Okay.
said,
Because I could just talk louder
I thought
too.
he
I'm
was
not
joking.
talking that loud.
He was not.
Anna brushed it off, and she and Tommy continued
But
to
the
see
YouTube
each
is
other
good.
until the spring of
volume.
2014. When Anna broke it off, she says Tommy was heartbroken.
As I told him that I met someone and that I didn't want to see him anymore, he started crying. I just felt this was extremely odd for a 20-year younger
You can still hear
guy
on video
who's
though,
super
right?
good looking. I would think he would be
About
dating,
Tommy?
Victoria's Secret models or, beautiful young girls.
A few months later, just before the murder, Anna reached out to Tommy again.
He'd come over to my apartment for dinner, which I had some other friends over.
I need to
It was
save
just a
this
super
settings
casual
down.
thing. I was asking him at that point, hadn't seen him in a while. He honestly seemed even better. He seemed to be like a little bit more outgoing, a little more talkative at that point, and that was literally days before he killed his father. I clearly have a very bad radar since I obviously missed a lot of signs.
A few weeks later, Thomas Gilbert Sr. was dead. Anna heard the news and panicked, afraid Tommy might still harbor a grudge from their breakup.
So I ran home and luckily lived in a very,
I have
very
emotes.
secure doorman building with a lot of doormen.
Use
So I
my
went,
emotes.
went home and locked my door, and I was scared to death that at some point he was gonna come and do something to me.
But Tommy wasn't coming for Anna. He had returned to his apartment, where Detective Sirigliano and a SWAT team were already closing in.
The big guys are there with the shields and the big guns. They got like a robot. They used a robot to look in the window and they saw him. And he was basically, during that time, he was getting himself legal advice. He was on the phone with his attorney. It was time for us to go in there. The search warrant was executed. ESU goes into the apartment. They instruct him to get down on the ground. Tommy got down on the ground. At that point, they handcuffed him. They handed him to me. I grabbed Tommy. And I'm like, wow, he's a big boy.
34-year-old Thomas Gilbert Jr.
The New York media seized on the story of a spoiled, entitled rich kid who shot his father over an allowance.
Called the Ivy League father killer who shot and killed his father.
Prosecutors claim the defendant was angry because his millionaire dad, Thomas Gilbert Sr., reduced his son's monthly allowance.
That's exactly what it is. A kid who became very spoiled and very entitled. He could have did anything he wanted. And unfortunately, evil steps in sometimes. And this is one
Who
of
would
those
do
times
that?
where evil really stepped in.
An entitled golden boy, a paranoid
was getting
arsonist,
an
a
allowance.
violent murderer. That's the Tommy Gilbert Jr. we'd been learning about. I wanted to meet him for myself. So we asked him for an interview and got back one sentence scribbled in handwriting that looked more like a child's than a Princeton graduate's. It was our first clue that Tommy was unwell. Our second clue came shuffling into the prison interview room.
How are you? Just join me here.
He looks a freaking
I'm
mess.
David Scott.
The Tommy Gilbert I met there was a far cry from the so-called golden boy.
Oh wait, does it sound better now? Or did I put the wrong volume up?
Morning, sir. How are you? Just join me here.
Crap.
I'm David Scott.
The once dashing hedge fund scion known as the Golden Boy was now,
Okay, let me put
well,
that volume
you
back
can see
down.
for yourself.
Okay, everybody good? Clock's starting now, 10:15.
There?
Well, thank you for
that
talking to
sound
me
better?
today. I want you to know we're here today because we really want to try and understand the mindset and motivations behind your actions in this case. You've maintained your silence all these years, and it seems like you're a pretty private person. So tell me, why are you here today talking to us?
I just want to present my case, my basic defense, and give an outline of the facts behind my case.
And why now?
Meeting as soon as possible. I didn't really have the opportunity to meet with anyone before.
I'm curious what you thought about the whole Golden Boy, Gilded Rage narrative that took hold in the media almost immediately, where you're cast as this 30-year-old, quote-unquote, spoiled man-child. Seems very simplified. What does that narrative miss in your mind?
I didn't get to see most of the stories behind it. I think that narrative misses a lot of the facts of the case, especially pertaining to my innocence.
You regard yourself as innocent. You maintain your innocence?
After all these years? I see.
I did not expect Tommy to claim he was wrongfully convicted. After all, his guilt is certain, confirmed by his own mother minutes after the shooting.
Hello, ma'am. You said your husband was shot? Yes. How long ago? Probably 10, 15 minutes ago. By whom? My son, was nuts. But I didn't know he was this nuts.
From the unkempt sight and smell of him, Gilbert appeared either to have given up on life or perhaps given in to madness.
He said from the
I
sight
wanted to
and
dig into
smell
his
of him.
childhood, hoping to get Tommy to
Wow.
open up about his life, his struggles, and to come clean about murdering his father.
There were indeed many descriptions of your privileged childhood, but none came from you yourself. How would you describe your childhood, sir?
I think it was good, pretty wholesome for the most part.
Oh, I thought he said
Yeah,
he was
good childhood.
wholesome.
It probably felt
Like,
normal
what?
to you, but you were born into this, world of the Upper East Side and its country counterpart on the east end of Long Island. Now you must know how rarefied that world is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you look back, what does it look like to you, that sort of elite world of, the New York City?
Uh-oh. I think I just moved it. No, I didn't.
Wealthy socialite.
Just a normal upbringing. I think just like anyone else would go to school and do regular things.
Were you aware of your privilege as you came up?
No, I don't think so. I think I took everything as a fairly normal existence.
Was there something that you were missing
That's the thing
as
is
you
like,
were brought up?
he was growing up rich and privileged,
no, not
and when
really.
you grow up that way, and you've
Usually,
never
this
been
is the
poor,
easy part of my interviews
there's
with
nothing to
killers.
compare
But
it to,
Tommy Gilbert
right?
would barely discuss how he
So
grew
he didn't
up,
even see
and
anything
how with
different
great privilege came tremendous
with his
pressure.
life.
I know that one of the things people don't see from the outside is the enormous expectations put on children in that world. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Most people will say, well, this is a high-class problem. But I know that kids in that world have crumbled under the great expectations of their parents and community. All right?
He's a mess.
Was it hard for you to bear those expectations at times as you were coming up?
No, I don't think so.
Tommy wouldn't or couldn't give me any of it. So I moved
Tommy
on to the
grew
next
up
chapter of his story.
Spoiled, and
One
his
where
parents,
things started
his
to
dad
go
would give
wrong.
him a monthly allowance of
Outwardly, you had all the
$500 a week,
attributes that seemed to almost
and then he decreased
guarantee
it to
success in that
$300,
world.
so
But you
Tommy
also had something
killed him,
else growing up,
basically. If
according
you
to
guys
the
are just
record.
joining,
Something
that's where we're at.
else up here between your ears.
And this guy's
It was on
interviewing
a bus in
Tommy
sixth
in
grade,
prison.
you later said, you realized for the first time your mind was slipping or drifting into what sounds like a state of detachment. You recall that?
No, I don't think so.
You were on the bus, you later told one of your doctors, I didn't feel like myself. This hadn't happened before. It was alarming because I immediately lost
helly?
social skills. Luckily, my
Clock
friend,
it.
who you were sitting next to, was listening to music at the time, so we didn't have to speak. You were around 11 years old. Ring a bell?
I don't think so. No.
Again, little to no response from Tommy. And now it's clear the interview is going south. But why? Is he holding back? Or
Who
is he
seems
just
odd?
too deranged to engage? After all, mental illness ran deep in Tommy Jr. and the Gilbert family.
He definitely seems
man
odd.
just
Like
on
they're
both
asking him
sides of the
questions,
family.
and he just kind of
His
like, no,
maternal
I
grandfather,
don't know. Like he's just
Wilson
kind of
Ray,
like
who was
in a
very, very
daze.
successful, jumped out of, I think, a fourth floor window of a psych hospital in the early 60s and committed suicide.
Wow.
And there was also mental problems on his father's side. I think there was something running in the family in that respect.
Author John
Okay,
Platt
so
uncovered the
mental
struggle
illness
going on inside Tommy Gilbert
ran in the
Jr.'s head
family.
long before he murdered his father.
He developed a fear of contamination and thought his father was
he was
contaminating
paranoid.
him. Thought
Okay,
his
he was
father
paranoid?
stealing his
Or was that
soul,
the story
and
that
that's what he was told
he's trying to
psychiatrist was
portray?
going on, you know? And that developed a completely irrational fear and hatred of his father.
But there was also a certain dynamic at play in the minds of his parents.
it's hard not to read these anecdotes as red flags of psychiatric problems.
That's definitely a
I
red
think
flag.
that, part
Okay,
of
if
the
somebody's
problem was
becoming
that
super
his parents didn't
paranoid
want to acknowledge
of
that there was anything
contamination
mentally
suddenly,
wrong with him, you know?
is he on
Maybe
drugs
didn't.
or is there
Why? Why
something
wouldn't they?
I think it was a
mentally
stigma,
going
or
on?
they didn't want to accept it, you know?
Many parents struggle for the right mix of treatment, tough love, and time off for an ailing child. But the Gilbert's case was extreme and increasingly dangerous.
You began, you said to your doctors again, having dreams about your father, sadistically harassing you, and vice versa. You recall any of those dreams?
Gilbert's eyes were now darting
charge
away,
my phone.
refusing to meet mine.
That's
His
really
mind
odd
seemed as
behavior.
elusive as ever. But it was time to talk about the heart of the matter, his perception of his father and of his own mental health.
In your mind, as you think back now, was everything fine?
I'm walking a tightrope in an interview with a killer.
He's
It's the public's
struggling.
first chance in a decade to see and hear him talk about the murder of a father he once loved.
He's
But
struggling
he's
to
running out of
engage and like
patience,
stay
and I'm running out of
focused.
time.
Around that time, you began.
I think he went
you
in
said
like
to
super
doctors
ready,
again,
but then
having
now his
dreams about your
focus has
father,
just gone down.
sadistically harassing you.
Like
and
he's
vice
reached his
versa.
limit.
Recall any of those dreams?
Not at the time, you know.
Do you recall having dreams about your father?
No,
No? A growing antagonism towards your father?
not around that time.
At Princeton, where his family had gone for generations, Tommy Gilbert Jr.'s mental illness got worse. A psychiatrist suggested he be hospitalized, but Tommy refused. And instead of having him committed, his parents sent him on a scuba and surfing vacation.
Well,
My
that ought
mother
to
always
fix
said
it.
That, you know, it kind of, you could only forcibly hold someone.
He was having
in
a mental breakdown
institution
and they
for 3
sent him
days,
on a
and after that they could
scuba
discharge
vacation.
themselves. So they were always worried about actually putting him in an institution and then him coming out and getting even madder at them, you know, so that was totally a problem.
Over the years, doctors diagnosed Tommy with obsessive compulsive disorder,
CD.
bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. Well, by the
He
time
got
he
the whole
graduated from
concoction.
Princeton, he was refusing to take his medication.
He just wouldn't take
Schizophrenia,
his drugs, and he was
bipolar,
also
OCD.
self-medicating on a lot of hallucinogenics, cocaine, marijuana,
And
which
he
I
was
don't
on
think
drugs,
helped things
okay.
either, you know.
And whenever Tommy's outbursts crossed the line and broke the law, the Gilberts stepped in with their money and influence.
There seems to have been a pattern of protecting
They were
Tommy
kind of like
from
enabling him, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I mean, they had a very good lawyer who, you know, knew how to make things, you know, under the carpet go away, you know.
And do you think that in that process they inadvertently emboldened Tommy's future crimes?
I would imagine so. I mean, it was like, you know, he thought he could get away with it, you know, basically, and did at that point.
Through it all, his parents continued their lofty expectations of success. And as Tommy's mind deteriorated, he turned against the one person he depended on most.
He really, you know, developed this image of his father as being this kind of evil kind of wizard, controlling him, stealing his soul, you know, stealing everything he had. And that's how he viewed his father. It just shows you how mentally deranged he was. He would look in the mirror and his face would become his father's, which is, I mean, frightening.
In one dream, you were kicking your father and yelling at him to stop menacing you. You told your then psychiatrist that up until that point you adored your dad. Did something change?
I think that story isn't true.
Poor Tommy.
Kind of the dream is false.
Well, these are
Poor
based on
Tommy.
the record, which pulls from the reports of your medical treatment by several psychiatrists. No?
I don't think so.
Approaching adolescence, and your parents have said they noticed the
It
difference.
seems to me like he's not
Less
remembering
easygoing,
a lot of stuff.
more withdrawn, continually washing his hands, remember any of that?
No.
In your mind, as you think back now, was everything fine?
Yeah, everything was fine. Pre-neural assistance.
Really? Internally, everything was fine? Your mind intact?
Yeah, he's not. I don't know if he's in
Must have had
denial or
substantial
he's
stress.
just like
Can I speak to,
mentally
the-
not well.
Excuse me?
Just 10 minutes in,
Wait, what did he say?
Tommy Gilbert Jr. couldn't take anymore.
Can I speak to
Oh.
Sorry,
wow.
you're asking to speak to one of the officials here?
yeah.
Okay.
What happened?
The interview was over,
Oh.
but the abrupt ending made me even more curious and determined to
That
learn
was
about
very
this elusive
abrupt.
killer.
Do you recall having dreams about your father?
No. Not at the time, no.
His eyes look really strange, pinpoints. I don't know, he doesn't seem there at all, you know.
We showed author John Glatt what happened.
How would you describe your childhood, sir?
I think it was good, pretty wholesome, for the most part. We had a good childhood.
Look at him. Long beard.
People are gripped by the golden boy narrative. How could it be that this kid who had, the world laid at his feet would, murder the man that made it all possible, his own father?
I mean, it was a big front page story for a long time. What made him do that, you know? I mean, patricide is probably one of the most awful crimes possible.
And thus begins the case and the debate. Is Tommy bad or mad or both?
A month after his arrest, Tommy Gilbert Jr. was arraigned on murder charges. His defense, insanity.
I've seen an awful lot of people who've killed one or two parents. I mean, statistically, you can almost say that, the parents are sort of most likely targets.
An obvious target.
Of their rage or confusion or their paranoias.
Forensic psychologist Dr. N.G. Burrell has evaluated many high-profile murderers, like serial killer Joel Rifkin and Colin Ferguson, who went on a shooting spree on the Long Island Railroad. He says that when a defendant appears mentally ill, the first question is always the same. Are they competent to stand trial?
If they walk into a court, do they understand the proceedings? Do they understand the charges? Can they meaningfully discuss their defense with their attorney?
The question of Gilbert's competency would hold up his trial for years, and John Glatt was in the courtroom for all of it.
The prosecution would arrange for him to meet psychiatrists, and he would refuse to meet them. That delayed things. And the judge was getting more and more frustrated that he wasn't cooperating,
Do you think he was competent to stand trial?
No, not at all. No. I sat there every hearing, every day of the trial. I don't think he even knew where he was a lot of the time,
Eventually, however, the court found Tommy fit to stand trial. In 2019, more than 4 years after the murder, it began. Tommy's lawyers argued insanity. They pointed to schizophrenia, to paranoia, to a man who did not understand, in the moment he pulled the trigger, that what he was doing was wrong. Prosecutors laid a trail of premeditation that belied Gilbert's sanity. It started months before the murder, with Tommy buying a gun.
He went on Facebook to sort of the gun
Marketplace.
Yeah,
He bought
I
the
found
gun.
This, guy
He bought the
in
gun.
Ohio
So did
and
he
had
know?
to drive out there to get a gun because he couldn't get one in New York.
Do you think that at that point he had already begun to plot the murder of his father?
I don't know. I mean, I think he was just so paranoid. People were after him.
Which is also a sign of his declining mental state.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
The day of the murder, Tommy cleverly maneuvering his mother out of the apartment under a pretense.
That request for sandwich and Coke
Yeah.
was prescient, possibly, tactical in and of
Didn't he
itself,
have-
right?
Yeah,
Drugs
because
in the
Shelley,
system?
they never had Coca-Cola in the house. So, she had to go out for it.
Then, after the shooting, staging the scene of the crime.
Tommy placed the gun on his father's chest to make it look like his father committed suicide.
You're trying to make it look like your father killed himself, bro? He didn't kill himself.
The way the pattern of the blood drive was and just the way everything, it didn't happen that way.
And finally, fleeing the scene and immediately calling a criminal defense attorney.
Yeah, that's a little like if you
Prosecution
didn't know what
argued
you were
all
doing,
actions of a
but
man
you
who
knew to
knows
call
what
a
he's
lawyer.
doing
You knew
and
to
knows
put the
it's wrong.
gun on his chest,
example,
on his hand or whatever.
After
It's
killing
a
his
little
father,
sus.
he remained in the apartment, was found in the corner, crying or cutting himself. That would lead us to a very different conclusion.
As opposed to going back to his apartment and calling his criminal defense attorney.
Right. That's a very logical thing to do. He's mentally ill, but still criminally responsible.
Both things can be true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it.
The prosecution called someone who had seen Tommy just days before the murder to testify that he appeared perfectly in control of his faculties.
The DA wanted to prove that he was not insane. And the fact that he was at my apartment just nights before this happened, he came over, he was chatty, he talked to other people, he knew where he was, he ordered sushi. You know, it was a very, very normal interaction with him. It wasn't like he was talking to himself or acting paranoid or insane.
And throughout it all, Tommy was sabotaging himself, contradicting his lawyers in open court.
He sabotaged his own defense right through the trial. A couple of times, you know, he would just address the jury in the middle of the court case, you know, and ask for a retrial, and the judge was getting more and more frustrated. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it.
You mean in court, he would stand
During
up
the
and
trial.
start talking to the jury?
Yeah, yeah. And there was one point where, you know, the judge cleared the jury out, ordered him to leave the courtroom, he refused, and he was dragged out of the courtroom.
Wow.
I mean, it was just amazing what was going on, you know. He wasn't even in the same courtroom when I saw him, you know. He was somewhere else in another world.
But there was one person in the courtroom who believed with every fiber of her being that her son belonged in a hospital, not a prison. The woman who had lost her husband and was now fighting not to lose a son, Shelley Gilbert.
I was speaking to Shelley on the phone. She would talk to me and confiding, and she's also telling.
All right, guys, we made it through 35 minutes of the documentary on YouTube about this killer. I'm gonna go ahead and get off. It's 6:45. I'm gonna use the restroom and then start heading to my nail appointment. I'm gonna go get my nails done. I'll show you guys the after, but this is what it looks like now. And yeah, I'll try to go on live or stream soon, later this week. I'm trying to be more active. I'm trying to get my watch hours up. So if you're watching, make sure to go subscribe or follow wherever you're watching from. But then also check out my other socials and my bio or my profile. It has all of my social media links. I'm also very active on YouTube, Instagram, so go check it out. But yeah, I'm gonna get going to my appointment, and I will see you guys in the next one very soon. Let me know what kind of streams you guys want. I've been doing a lot of Roblox streams, a lot of on YouTube. I always do like just day-to-day lives, and then maybe some watch parties like today would be cool. But I don't know. I'm gonna get off. Thank you all for watching if you're still here.